going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. So it's been about 3 weeks since we put the S2 Concept Clip-Ons on the XSR900. So I've been able to form a little bit of an opinion for how the bike feels now with the clip-ons, been able to collect some data. So in this video, we'll go ahead and take a look at seating position, overall comfort, the positioning of the controls now. They're a little bit different with the S2 Concept Clip-Ons, as well as some other little things as well. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if we ruined it. If you haven't checked out the S2 Concept install video, please go to my channel page and check it out. I'll also put a link in the description, but in the install video, we discovered going to the S2 Concept Clip-Ons, you lose about 4 inches of height. So the stock handlebars are about 4 inches higher than this setup. Keep in mind, your mileage may vary. I'm just providing you the owner's thoughts as well as my thoughts, since we've had these clip-ons installed for about 3 weeks now and put a couple hundred miles on it. A question that we get a lot is, what about the clearance, especially at full lock? So as you can see here, we have the mirrors completely inverted. Okay, and let's go ahead and go to full lock. Okay. You could see plenty of clearance here. And then with the mirror, also plenty of clearance. Well, what about with the mirror folded? Okay, so we could see here, I have the mirror positioned in such a way to where maybe you'd have it this way if you're lane filtering or something like that. Okay, let's check that clearance. Okay, and you can see, again, plenty of clearance here, plenty of clearance here. Now, of course, if you fold the mirror in or do something strange like that, then you'll have clearance problems. But I mean, just normal folding the mirrors, not gonna have an issue. Go ahead and look at the controls. If you remember from our install video, we know that these controls are now clocked this way just a bit. So for example, before, this wheel was actually down here, okay, which made it difficult to use because you couldn't really see it, especially when you have gloves on, right? Couldn't really see it, and it was hard to not scroll and also push it at the same time. But it being in this position is much easier to use. Left side as well, much easier to use, mostly because you can kind of see everything, but it's just in a more natural position when you're trying to manipulate those buttons. Big plus is it's all pre-drilled. So those controls have like a little pin that needs to be drilled to position them, to clock them. That's all pre-drilled. The clip-ons are also fixed, so there's no adjustment or anything like that, which for some people may be a bad thing. There are people out there that do want adjustments there. But for most XSR900 owners who are not gonna track the bike or anything like that, fixed is actually a better setup just because it's easier to install yourself. Take a look at the seating position. If you look, okay, look at where the clip-ons are, okay? So you have your fork, right? And you pretty much have the clip-ons sitting on top of the fork. They even have a slight rise to them, if you see there. Okay, and if we step back, look at where the seat is in relation to the clip-ons, right? You have a pretty low seat, and the clip-ons themselves have a little bit of a rise to them compared to an actual sport bike, right? Look at where the clip-ons are. Okay. Right? The clip-ons are actually mounted underneath the steering head, okay? And if you look at where the seat height is, it's basically on the same plane as the clip-ons. And let's go back to the XSR. Look at where our seat height is in comparison to the clip-ons. What does that all mean? The XSR900 with the S2 Concept Clip-Ons, it's certainly a more committed riding position than stock. However, it's not fully committed like a sport bike. So I think the best way I could describe it is like if you throw a leg over a naked bike. Naked bikes usually have a pretty high seat. They almost have a sport bike seating position. However, with the handlebars and risers, it gives you it's committed, but it certainly gives you a little bit more comfort than having the clip-ons. As you see on the Aprilia, the clip-ons are actually mounted underneath the steering head. On the XSR, the clip-ons are actually mounted on top of the steering head, and there's a little bit of a rise to them. Okay guys, let's go ahead and check out our new seating position. All right, so if you look, certainly more committed than we were stock. We did lose about 4 inches, so if you can imagine, the stock bars, the grips are probably about here, right? So you can see the difference in position. However, it's not fully committed like a sport bike, so I want you to really take note of the seat height here. Look at the difference in the seat height compared to where the grips are, right? You got quite an elevation change there. Whereas on a real sport bike, the clip-ons are going to be mounted underneath the steering head, meaning the grips are going to be more like so, right? Look at the change of my position. Okay, so quite a difference there compared to a real sport bike. Also, this bike has cruise control. So when you want to relax, look what happens. Look what happens to my body. Almost straight up and down, right? Not quite, but almost straight up and down when you go ahead and relax. Okay, so definitely not as comfortable as it was stock. However, it's not fully committed like a sport bike. Also, important thing to note, since you're in a little bit more of a committed position here, when you're cruising on the freeway, you don't get near as much wind buffering as you did sitting straight up and down with the handlebars. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's jump on the Aprilia. I'll show you the difference between this bike and an actual super sport. Okay guys, so here we are on the Aprilia RSV4. As you can see, look at where the seat is. Look at where the height is compared to the height of the grips. So I'm sitting much higher, and look at my seating position, right? Very, very committed. Even when I relax, so this bike also has cruise control, but look what happens when I relax, right? So again, this is just my body. For those that are a little bit taller, have longer arms or whatever, you're gonna be in a little bit different position. But for me, even when I'm relaxed, look at where I am, right? I've still got a pretty good angle on my back here, right? So way more committed than that XSR. So for comparison, that XSR is way closer to a naked than it is an actual sport bike, right? So look at where I am here. And this is not even totally how I normally ride. Normally, I got my arms bent a little bit more, right? More like this, right? And you can see how much more uncomfortable an actual sport bike is than that XSR setup. And remember guys, we did move the rear sets. We did move the rear sets forward and up. That is something you could do with these XSRs. These are the stock rear sets. So it's nice that we're able to do that without buying a completely new set. Moving those rear sets up and forward, it's a way more appropriate position with the clip-ons. It works really well in conjunction with those clip-ons. It also pushes you a little bit further forward, you know, not much, but it does push you a little bit further forward, so you're able to grip the tank a little bit better. Again, this is just with my body type as well as the current owner's body type. Your mileage may vary, but that is an important distinction to make. Having that adjustable rear set from factory is really nice with those clip-ons, and I would recommend you moving them up and forward if you go to this clip-on. All right guys, so there you have it. I hope that was helpful to you all. Try to always share as much information as possible to be as helpful to you guys as we can. I hope that now that you see what the seating position is like, you can make your own decision as to whether going to clip-ons for the XSR is an appropriate choice for you. I think it looks way better this way. I think it's a much cooler look with the clip-ons, but you do lose a little bit of comfort. However, you gain in other ways too, right? You get less wind buffering. If you're used to sport bikes, it's still going to be very comfortable because that seat is so low. So anyways, a lot more XSR content on the way, exhaust, tune, seat, some other things as well. If there's anything that you guys want to see as far as the XSR goes, if you guys have any ideas of what we should do with the XSR, feel free to put it in the comments. Let me know your ideas. Always down to try to create content that you guys want to watch to help you guys out. So anyways, if you can, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you guys next time.